Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nic Cage Fight podcast, where we review, analyze, and break down Nic Cage movies because we are doing anything we can to avoid going back to prostituting ourselves in New Orleans. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. How are we tonight?
Look, we have not made enough money doing this podcast to not prostitute ourselves in New Orleans.
Yeah, you gotta stay on that grind. You know what I'm saying?
I'll co-sign on that.
And we are here today to talk about Sonny, a 2001 R-rated film clocking in at excruciating hour and 50 minutes. And I did not enjoy myself on this one, but we can jump right into housekeeping. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, let's just get right into this piece of shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, first up, director Nic Cage, known for directing other not for directing any other films. This was the only film Nic Cage has ever directed, and I wanted it to be so much better. Moving on to the writer is John Carlin, who had done basically all TV movies as far as the writing credits are concerned. Those included Dark Justice, Sworn to Vengeance, Lethal Vows, and that's where I just stopped writing these generic names down because I was not familiar with any of them, really.
Now, the one thing I did find on my little bit of research on this dude is that this script had actually been circulating in Hollywood for about 15 years prior to them actually making it.
Couldn't imagine why.
Yeah, no, couldn't really.
So also, when we did start looking into this, and we probably talked about it at the tail end of our last episode, this is at least loosely based on the life of this writer.
Yeah, I remember.
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah, because we talked about it as like, oh, this dude actually seems like he's kind of a cool dude. Didn't he do jail time too?
He did do jail time for robbing a bank and being a gigolo.
Good for him.
Yeah, like I dig bank robbery and nothing wrong with sex work, but I gotta admit, I was not overwhelmed with the pros here. Moving on to cast, first up, as always, Nic Cage actually stars in his directorial debut as a character known as Acid Yellow, and this is up there in the ranks of the most batshit role I've ever seen Cage play. It really is punching way out of this movie's weight class in insanity.
Yeah.
Can we backtrack for 2 seconds too?
Sure.
Because I was just having to look at the writer, and he did a TV movie that I've actually seen and kind of enjoyed called Wild Texas Wind. It stars Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton.
Okay.
It's a made-for-TV movie at the end of the day, but it's not the worst thing I've ever watched. Just wanted to give that a shout out.
Yeah, made for TV isn't always the worst. I mean, you got like all those Kojak TV movies that are kind of awesome. You got The Night Stalker, which whips ass.
Yeah,
TV movie is not a instant denigration.
Yeah, no, I don't want to have it seem like that's what I was implying, because I came into this movie expecting some gold. Really, it just it did not turn out that way.
No.
Next up in the cast, the leading man is James Franco as Sonny,
noted sex pervert James Franco.
Yeah,
known for sexual abusing minors, so always a plus.
Yeah, fuck that dude.
Yeah. In between doing all that, though, he did star in a couple of movies, including Disaster Artist, Pineapple Express, 127 Hours, and The Interview.
And I'd like to shout out the fact that he directed an absolutely abysmal fucking adaptation of a William Faulkner novel. Like, never watch his As I Lay Dying. It sucks so fucking bad.
Also, funny like little piece of trivia for this movie. Tommy Wiseau saw this, and this was the movie that convinced him that James Franco could play him in The Disaster Artist.
Absolutely incoherent thinking from Tommy Wiseau. Keep it up.
No, just known for his coherent thinking.
Is it just so fucking berserk, man? I don't understand this.
Also, one thing I will say too, James Franco in the HBO show The Deuce. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's really good.
This is not the first time you've plugged that show.
No, because the show is fucking awesome. It's like Look, you have the Wire #1, you have the Sopranos #2. Like, this is in that third tier. Like, it's very high.
I ain't putting it over Deadwood, but yeah, it's pretty good.
It's in the same tier as Deadwood.
Yeah,
Deadwood fucks.
Yeah, Deadwood's got Nick Offerman all naked and covered in mud, flapping his dick around. It's great.
So next up after Franco, we have Brenda Blethyn. I think I'm pronouncing that right, as Jewel, who in most of my notes, because they very rarely refer to her by her actual name, I just have her in my notes for the most part as Mama.
That's fair. That's usually what she's referred to as anyway.
And it really, really drives home the point that not a good person, despite the sympathies that you might end up feeling for some of these characters. Terrible person. But she's been in a bunch of things, including Pride and Prejudice, Secrets and Lies, Saving Grace, and Ryan, you mentioned one of her other acting credits.
No, you got it. Secrets and Lies was the one I was thinking of. I had the title wrong.
Well, yeah, she was nominated for an Academy Award, I think, for that.
Yeah, is that a Fassbender? I don't know off the top of my head. I can find out though.
I don't know. I'm not looking at it. I just happened to kind of see it.
No, Mike Leigh, apparently, who I should know. That sounds familiar.
Next up, while Ryan researches, we have Mina Savari as Carol. If she looks really familiar to you, it's because you've probably seen her in a bunch of shit, including American Beauty, American Pie, Loser, and my favorite credit of hers, she is Noelle in the Teenage Dirtbag music video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you see,
I can't
my
identify
favorite,
where I know Mike Leigh from.
My favorite credit of hers is that she's Rachel in The Slums of Beverly Hills.
Oh, that movie's great.
I love
Natasha
that
Lyonne
movie.
is awesome in that.
I'm sorry, the Wheatus music video is still going to take it.
Well, yeah, but also she was the beauty in American Beauty, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Harry Dean Stanton as Henry. We are Harry Dean Stanton stans on this pod. Good actor, solid credentials. He's been in Alien, Green Mile, Repo Man, Ordinary Fucking People.
Fucking hate him.
Alpha Dog, which is one of my favorite films, and Twin Peaks, which we always got to include those for Ryan.
Good old Carl Rod, the proprietor of Dead Trout Trailer Park in that.
That's
Do not wake before 9 a.m. ever.
Next up, we have Seymour Castle as Albert, who's been in a number of things, including Stealing Harvard, Rushmore, the Dick Tracy movie, Honeymoon in Vegas as Tony Cataracts. So
who do you play in the Dick Tracy movie? I love that.
I don't remember. All of the Dick Tracy characters look like monsters. So I was
yes, that's the best part. It's awesome.
Oh, he was Sam Ketchum.
Okay, gotcha. I think he's one of the cops. He's not one of the people that have been disfigured by crime and vice, which is
with the name like Sam Ketchum. Dick Tracy was not known for its subtlety.
Nope, not at all. It
also,
was known.
What a great mobster name too from Honeymoon in Vegas, and they all had great mobster names. His name is Johnny Cataracts.
Yeah, he was Tony Cataracts.
Tony Cataracts.
And then there was what? Johnny Roast Beef.
Johnny Roast Beef, yes.
And then we realized he always played a Johnny some food item in all of his like mobster roles. We went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with that actor.
Which, just a little thing about me, is every time I hear like a clearly made up name, all I can think of is fucking Jersey Shore, when Jenny is listing off her friends and her one friend's name is J420.
I mean, that's a cool name. I bet that guy is cool to be around.
No, he is not. People found his Instagram, and he is not great. We do not stand J420 on this podcast.
Bummer.
Just the briefest name, aside, people with those names, those are 100% incidents where people have picked their own nickname, and I can't respect that. If you get a nickname, if somebody else gives it to you, I will abide by it. But if you come up to me and you're like, yeah, people call me this, I'm like, that's not what's on your birth certificate. Just
that doesn't count.
I can't do nicknames, man. Also, my stance on that has gotten me in trouble several times. Most notably, there was this kid I knew who insisted his name was Anday, like Anday. tattooed on his arm and everything.
Mm.
And I was like, and when I first met him, we were bowling. And so I saw Ann Day as one of the names. I was like, did they misspell your name up at the front desk? Because it was one of those places where they put it in up front. And he's like, no, that's my name. And then points to his tattoo. And I'm like, I don't think it's spelled that way, kid.
Show me your driver's license.
Hey, I want to see. Yeah, I want to see the
So
government
as-
What does
documentation.
Uncle Sam call you?
Yeah.
As somebody who does go by a nickname occasionally, it depends on how I know the person. If it is one of Josh's or Ryan's friends who I'm meeting through them, I will introduce myself as my nickname because that's how they may know me.
Yeah, that's true. But also, like, I heard you didn't introduce yourself to me as that. It was how somebody else who was telling me about you. That's how I got your nickname. That's why it was fine. And I think to this day, I have not corrected your entry in my phone book from
Perfect.
your nickname. So
10 out of 10, no notes.
next up, we have Brenda Vaccaro as Meg, who has a lot of TV acting credits, including voiceover work. So I just threw together some of my favorites. The Critic, Goof Troop, Darkwing Duck. She was on
Ooh,
Columbo,
bangers.
Golden Girls, Murder, She Wrote, and some old movies. I think some were TV movies, some were big screen movies, but including titles such as Midnight Cowboy, Supergirl, and Capricorn 1.
You forgot a big one.
Which
She's
one?
Johnny Bravo's mom.
Yes, she is Johnny Bravo's mom.
Oh, so she just does banger after banger on the animated circuit because like Darkwing Duck, like yeah.
Yeah, no, most of those I was like, what the fuck? That's awesome. I did not recognize her voice from that, but she plays a very different role.
I do
got to
rewatch The Critic. The Critic is gold.
The Critic
front to
role
back.
was very good.
I will watch it when I'm done with King of the Hill.
It's got my favorite. Was it Orson Welles that did those bad champagne commercials?
Oh God, I don't know.
I don't remember.
It's got a bit in The Critic where he's doing these like bad commercials for frozen peas.
Next up, we have Josie Davis as Gretchen. A lot of TV, primarily the two big titles that stood out to me are Charles in Charge and The Young and the Restless. And then finally, Scott Conn as Jesse. He has been in the Oceans movies. He was in Gone in 60 Seconds, which we reviewed, and he was also in Varsity Blues. You'd recognize him if you saw him. And with that, barring any loud complaints about me leaving anyone out, I'm going to wrap up housekeeping there, I think.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
I looked through it, didn't really see anybody who like really stood out.
All right. Now we can get into the storyline of this insane and not great film. We open up, we get a title card indicating where and when we are, and it is New Orleans, 1981. Keep that year in the forefront of your mind as we go through this, because they do not give a shit about sticking to this at all. We also, from there, we open on James Franco's face as he walks down Bourbon Street in New Orleans, looking at the shops that line it. He's wearing a military dress uniform and carrying a duffel bag. And then he arrives at a house, condo, whatever, and puts on his funny military hat before ringing the doorbell. We learn very quickly that this is his mother's house. And she seems a bit fucking crazy right off the bat, but she rushes downstairs and lets him in and starts telling him immediately about this girl, Carol, that she has working for her, and she's a good one and she'll make good money. But especially when Sonny teaches her like she taught Sonny. Now, I knew the premise of the film when I went into this, but I was like, I'm just maybe she's talking about something else. Maybe she's not. It's made apparent almost immediately that Carol is a prostitute working for Mama, and Sonny used to be too. And a little bleak.
Yeah, it takes a hard woman to prostitute out her own son.
Yeah, at we learn later at age 12, they put a specific number on it.
So since this is based on the writer's life, it was more than likely his actual like great grandmother who was whoring him out, because that's who owned the brothel that he was born in originally.
Gross.
Yeah, way more bleak, honestly, in my approximation.
Yeah, there's still nothing nice about any of this.
Yeah, and there is not enough gay sex in this movie to convince me that it's real.
Yeah, I
Fair.
honestly, none of this really stacks up to even the modest most moderate amount of scrutiny. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know how closely it's based on somebody's real world experiences. I hope it's very far from that in reality, but who fucking knows? Sonny is not super excited to jump back into the sex work game and wants to go sell books at his friend's father's bookstore, a guy he met in the military.
I don't blame him. Bookstore works good. You
Yeah.
get to sit around and read books and tell people about books. That's
Yeah.
fun.
And then yell at them for not reading the right books.
Nah, you never do that shit. You just let them pay the money for the bad books.
This revelation is not what Mama wants to hear. She really wants Sonny to go back to being a prostitute, but he's adamant that he is done with all that and leaves her disappointed and goes and settles down in a bedroom. It's pretty clear, like he seems comfortable in the room, but it's pretty clearly occupied by somebody. There's like laundry and shit on the bed and whatnot. It looks relatively well lived in still. And then we cut to that room's current occupant, who's not there right now. She is at a car dealership. This is Carol, and she is giving the owner a blowjob and is demanding a Pontiac in return for at least a month until Sonny can buy it outright. And then she comes home and gives Sonny the keys to a Pontiac and some money. And then basically it's played off as sort of playful, but it is, again, like most of this film, a little disconcerting. But she essentially propositions him for sex in exchange for the car and the money. And he's like, all right. So that's our first sex scene. And it is bizarre both in the lead up and execution.
Yeah.
I mean, that could just sum up this whole movie.
Yeah. You're gonna get a lot of that.
Yeah, this movie is pure unfiltered Cage. This is smoking a pack of Nic Cage Lucky Strikes in 5 minutes.
I miss Lucky Strikes. That was my brand.
That's what made me think of it, honestly.
But yeah, just a weird scene. The next morning, we get our first glimpse of Henry, who comes in to greet Sonny while he's shaving, and they talk about nothing really consequential for just a couple lines before getting called down for breakfast by Mama.
And this is Harry Dean Stanton, who is
Yes.
the breath of fresh air for this whole movie. He's actually legitimately good in it, which is something I can't say for most of the rest of the performances.
Yeah, he's the only one actually, I think, trying to act in any sort of capacity. I'm not sure.
I've never seen a movie where he was bad. Like, he always puts his best foot forward, regardless of the material.
It was honestly, I liked a couple of his scenes, and they're some of the only scenes in the film that I enjoyed. And it was just his part. Like, you got to divorce it from the rest of the dialogue, except with one exception. I loved every scene with him and Seymour Castle. I thought that was the best.
Oh, and they're playing gin. That was pretty good.
Yes.
Yes.
There's like 2 or 3 of them, and they're pretty perfect. But yeah, the rest of it is just woof. So Sonny goes shopping for some new clothes, and he's getting fitted for a blazer. And he asks the tailor if there's, if they're looking for any help, if they're hiring, et cetera, et cetera. And in the midst of him doing this, he gets approached by Meg and Meg's friend. And they recognize him, say they haven't seen him in some time, so on and so forth. It becomes immediately apparent that Meg is an old client of his and super psyched to see him again, back in town and hopefully back to working. Sonny tries to play it off a bit and seems a little standoffish because he does seem a bit put off by their innuendo. But this confused me. At the end of the scene, he sort of like walks out with them because the tailor comes back and is just like, yeah, I told you I'd look to see if we were hiring anybody, but I don't think we're going to be hiring you. And then he leaves with the women, like with his arms around them. They've been trying to get him to go out for a drink, but he kept saying no. So I don't know if he ended up getting a drink with them or not.
It is never specified.
No, it's a weird about face to the tail end of that scene, and they don't clarify. So when Sonny gets home, Mama tells him that Henry is in jail for shoplifting and that they got to go and bail him out. But Carol has to get home first because the bail bondsman isn't going to help them get Henry out of jail unless Carol applies her trade for him. so they have to wait for her. And when Carol does get home, we get another glimpse of the kind of character of Jewel, given that we know that she prostituted her own son when he was a child. But she basically gives Carol like a nasty pimp speech where, she better not think she can run off somewhere with Sonny, and it won't go good for her if she tries something like that. It's pretty threatening.
Yeah. I think that she's actually pretty good in this. She plays kind of like a low-key threatening pimp very well.
Yeah,
At least I thought so.
the only baffling thing is, as Josh pointed out earlier, that her accent doesn't really square with the location that the film is supposed to be set.
No, well, everybody's accent is all over the place.
Yeah,
That's very true. I mean, again, Harry Dean Stanton's got a pretty solid like Southern drawl going. He doesn't lose it throughout the whole movie. So
yeah, Stanton's fine. Mama, it's weird. She talks in like, I feel like her voice is pitched up. I'm not really familiar with the rest of her work, but her voice is pitched up. She pronounces her ORs like OIs, like in old-timey gangster film, but otherwise is sort of affecting a sort of New Orleans accent, but with none of that French Creole influence.
and with the occasional weird baby talk sprinkled in just for good measure.
Yeah, it's bizarre and off-putting. The threatening speech, though, I again, the message got across in that one at the very least. But after she threatens Carol, she clues Carol into the fact that she's got to give the bondsman a freebie in order to get Henry out. When Carol returns home from doing that, she tells Sonny that she wants to have a baby. And the next morning, Carol and Mama are gone for some amount of time in another town nearby, where Carol is doing a stretch at a rented out room in a motel, working basically. And Sonny learns this when he comes downstairs, and it's just Henry. And then Henry and Sonny have a conversation about Sonny's plans. And this is one of the better bits of acting in the movie, is Harry Dean Stanton's conversation here. It gets more poignant when you find out what's going on later in the film, but it's actually good acting in which Sonny's explaining his plans, and Henry is sort of sympathizing and sort of encouraging Sonny to pursue this, but also gives him like a word of warning about how, no matter which way you live your life, it's not like there's any scenario in which you don't have problems. The squares on the other side of the fence, they have their own sets of problems and concerns as well. Just switching into a more stable and illicit profession isn't just going to make everything magically better. But like I said, touching performance. Henry gets a little bit choked up, saying that, he hopes Sonny can make it, just to see if one of them can make it out of the cycle that their lives have become. Good scene.
Yeah, well acted. Again, Harry Dean Stanton, he's just good.
Well acted by Stanton.
Yeah, exactly.
Franco is
abysmal.
Either emotionless and trying to smirk and glide on the strength of his cheekbones through every scene, or he's completely overacting in like the more emotional scenes, and they're just written weirdly. I think the outbursts were probably some of the better acting from him, but they're placed in ways that make little to no sense. The next scene we get is a real like TV movie shot. This, at least that's the impression it gave me, with Sonny driving around in the Pontiac. It's like that time lapse shit with him like sort of speeding around and whatnot. I don't know what the camera technique would be called, but it's a real TV movie kind of shot, in my opinion.
I think you hit it on the head. Time lapse is probably what that would be referred to.
And after that little montage, Sonny pulls the Pontiac up to this house in some sort of suburb, and we see that he's gone to see Jesse, his buddy from the military, who told him he'd get him a job in his dad's bookstore after their tour was up. So bad news on that front. Jesse's dad lost the bookstore. It was foreclosed on by the bank. And then Jesse's dad went and died of cancer. all before Jesse got home, basically. And moreover, it looks like the bank is going to be repossessing his father's old house where Jesse is currently staying for some brief amount of time. So Sonny is obviously disappointed by this, but Jesse manages to talk him into hanging around at least to go out on a double date with this pair of sisters that Jesse knows. Jesse is trying to hook up or is hooking up in some fashion with one of the sisters and wants Sonny to show her older sister a good time while they're out on the town, basically. So Sonny is a bit hesitant and explains that he's never been on a real date, but doesn't elaborate. And Jesse doesn't seem to really give too much of a shit about it anyway. So Jesse sort of just ignores that tidbit of information, and they go and meet with the sisters, who I believe are coming out of a church, it looks like. Not 100% on that, but that's what it looked like to me, which is kind of bonkers. And then they go out for ice cream and a movie together.
And inexplicably, James Franco is fucking blowing on the ice cream like it's too cold.
They put lines in the movies like,
yeah,
blew on the ice cream. He's like, what do you think it was hot? He's like, I don't know, maybe for a minute I did. Like, the fuck is this?
Show don't tell. Come on.
Yeah, or I don't know. It's weird, and I don't really know what they were going for there. But you know what ice cream makes me think of? Other goods that you can purchase with money. That's what it makes me think of. What about you, Rich?
I'm just reminiscing about this fucking movie. Like, as you're talking, I'm just sitting here just like, we watched this. We are in a very small group of people who can say that we watched Sonny. Not only did we watch it, we reviewed it. Not only did we review it, but now it's an ad break.
Somebody may pay us for having watched this.
We deserve to be paid for watching this. I'm going to say that outright.
Like, I'm just going to be quiet this episode because I'm still letting this fucking movie wash over me.
I did subject someone else to this. Like, usually when I watch the movie for the podcast, I watch it with my buddy so that I have like somebody to bounce off of when I'm trying to figure out what to talk about when actually get to the recording. And so 4 people have been subjected to this film due to this podcast.
That's a unconscionable body count.
It's grim. It's bleak.
It is. But yeah, anyway, here's
I guess thanks, Nic Cage, for making this movie because it's batshit.
Yeah, my buddy Jeff did not like this movie either.
No,
he really, really didn't like this movie.
We'll have to pull up some of the positive reviews, Rich, if you can find some.
Yeah, I'll do some. I'll do it on the ad break.
All right. So listen to these ads and enjoy the brief mental reprieve you have before we get back to covering this, the plot of this film.
All right, Josh, you're not going to be happy with this one.
I rarely am.
So Craig's gave this movie 22%, audience score 42%.
That's surprisingly high. I don't think your average audience would have the tolerance for this movie. I think
this is suspiciously high.
Yeah.
So
I think it got review bombed positively by fucking perverts.
Here is so there were like no reviews on this movie. It's like maybe one a year. And then there's 2 in 2022. The first one, 5 stars, written well and very interesting from start to finish, full of the extreme raw emotion, drama, and eroticism you'd expect in a world of prostitution in New Orleans. James Franco gives a convincing performance. The guy that played his mother and her boyfriend were also good. Never a dull moment in this movie.
Yeah, that was James Franco posting a positive review of this film.
Yeah,
I guarantee it. I would have said it was the writer, but I think the writer was dead before last year.
Yeah, he was dead in like 2009, from my understanding.
Okay, yeah, then that's definitely James Franco posting that review.
Here's another 5-star. Good job, Cage. This was a great movie. That's it. That's a review.
Look, we love Nic Cage here, but
here's a 4-star one, and then we'll continue reviewing this piece of dog shit. Greatly underrated film, James Franco's best performance. The film is a mix of film noir, Southern Gothic, and Midnight Cowboy. Blethen's character is an honest portrayal of this type of personality in this disgusting, degrading profession. James Franco shows the Brando and James Dean comparisons easily in this, but it is not a caricature. The film is a great character study and condemning of prostitution, but it also shows how society does not give you second chances easily and uses their own fake modesty. Oh, hang on, there is more. Oh, and their own fake modesty while oblivious to their own hypocrisy.
What? That's
what?
nonsensical.
So I got a little tidbit. I watched the interview with Nic Cage from some like foreign fucking TV when this movie was coming out. Apparently, this was supposed to be Richard Gere starring originally, back in like the late 80s, early 90s when this the script was originally written.
I'd watch that.
That would be a completely different movie. I would definitely.
It would
watch
be a
that.
different
All right,
movie.
80s, 90s Richard Gere, like, yeah, I'd watch that. He's good in a lot of things.
He's good in American Gigolo, which is basically the same movie but good.
Oh, and real quick, because we forgot to plug it, and we're talking about gigolos, which is about giving men money. You give us money on Patreon.
Yeah, we're men.
We're men.
We like money.
We're men. We like money. Patreon.com/Nic Cage Fight. You can hear this without the ads, but still get our witty banter about the ads. What do you think the ads were this time? I'm always hoping it's for DraftKings.
Ashley Madison.
I don't think that's a thing anymore.
Is it?
That's
Okay.
I hope the ad is for Gawker.
I'm looking at Ashley Madison. Let's see. Ashley Madison is still a thing. It is. I think it is still the same thing. Like, hey, are you horny for people that's not your wife who believes you're living in monogamy?
But now
Come
they
to
just
this
lean
website.
into it and they're like, if you sign up, we just send an email directly to your wife.
Oh, wait a minute. Here's that from the Chicago Reader. Is Ashley Madison review. Does it work in 2023? Is it real? We tried it and paid for a membership.
It is only February. Somebody's already written this article.
Pros. Very active community. Ashley Madison claims to have more female users than male. Easy to find and consistent hookup or fling. Users on Ashley Madison are there for a reason. They aren't messing around. Intuitive interface and design. Discreet and anonymous.
Except for that one time where all of it became national news.
Was that an unintended pun?
Cons.
Not messing around, really?
Cons. There are scammers on Ashley Madison, but they're easy to spot if you know what you're looking for. No shit. Cons. Data breach occurred in 2015. Quite expensive. Complicated pricing structure.
that raises some questions. I'm curious what's complicated about their pricing structure.
I'm gonna go talk to my partner and be like, hey, you want to sign up for Ashley Madison and see what this is like?
Write it off as a business expense. Okay, so
yeah, we got to get back to this piece of shit.
To get back to it, because it's also where I really started, the movie really started to lose me, because the next scene goes completely off the fucking rails. So after ice cream and a movie, they go back to the sisters' house, right? And Sonny and the older sister sleep together, and she tells him afterwards, oh, that's what you should do for a living. And he's like, well, yeah, I do, or I did, but I don't want to anymore. And so he basically, like, she laughs it off at first until he sort of gets it across that he's not joking. Also, he looks miserable and like he's about to cry right after this scene where they had sex. It's an odd choice, but that's what he's doing. And so after she sort of accepts this, that he's telling the truth and not just fucking with her, she seems kind of freaked out and excuses herself to the bathroom. So she goes into the bathroom, rummages through some drawers, and comes out with a bottle of some kind of medicine and starts drinking from it. And it is apparently cough syrup. And Sonny like busts in on her drinking it. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, it's cough syrup. My throat hurts. He takes
and it
the bottle
helps me.
from her.
Well, and she says it helps me sleep.
Oh yeah,
this is the equivalent of me, and this is something that I have done and will continue to do. Can't sleep? Have a little sip of NyQuil. It helps.
Yeah. Well, they make shit just for they have just the sleepy shit, and NyQuil.
Yeah.
NyQuil.
Yeah, you have that too. I like the cough syrup though. It's makes me feel like I'm getting healthy.
There you go. So Sonny completely fucking loses it when he takes the cough syrup from her, and he's like, no, it's not just cough syrup, it's cough syrup with codeine. And then he even says something like, I don't, he's like, you don't think I've ever met somebody with a stomach addiction or issue? I don't even know what the fuck he's saying or what
He's
it's
just screaming like,
yeah. So he takes the bottle from her and throws it and smashes it against the door and starts just ripping out drawers. And he's like, you're a junkie. He jumps to this conclusion so fucking quick. I was completely confused as to what was going on because
so dear listener, the only thing I can compare this to, and I told my co-host this as soon as we signed on, if any of you have ever seen The Other Guys, it's the scene where Mark Wahlberg goes into the dance studio and immediately tells his ballet dancer ex-girlfriend that they are in a strip club and that she's dancing for dollar bills and is screaming at her. And then her dance partner, who is like a black guy, comes up and he starts screaming at him that he's a crack dealer. It's that, but played completely seriously. If nothing else, watch this scene because it's hilarious.
It was so jarring that like I legitimately thought it was supposed to be portrayed as him having a complete psychotic break with all of reality. Because after her explanation, I'm like, this isn't that weird. Like, I thought she was going to get up and like go get her sister and be like, no, we have a legitimate prostitute in the house. And I think maybe he should leave. And instead, she's like, no, I'm just going to have some cough syrup and go to bed.
Just have a little sip on that lean.
Yeah. And then her explanation, I'm like, that's totally reasonable. In fact, actually, what I originally thought is she just went in there and had like a bottle of penicillin and was like, ooh, gonna preload a treatment for this one. And that's why he was getting mad.
I thought it was like a bottle of alcohol, like, oh God, what did I just do? Let me like have a couple shots of like this Southern Comfort.
God, Southern Comfort is so grody. No, thank you.
And I also thought that this would come back at some point, like his mother was an addict or he used to be an addict. No, this is never mentioned again. Spoiler alert, nothing comes of this scene.
Yeah, so I mean, and to finish setting the table, okay, this is what's happened so far. He caught her, he grabbed the bottle, he smashed it against the door, and then he just starts tearing through this bathroom. I mean, tearing it to pieces.
I mean, he like hip checks her into the broken glass too at one point.
Yeah, well, he goes like he doesn't find anything in the bathroom drawers, and he goes to like an attached closet and just starts ripping shit off the shelves. And I'm like, oh, okay, so he's losing it. He's a psycho. That's what's going on. But then he finds more bottles of fucking cough syrup stashed in this closet and starts smashing and breaking those too. And then, yes, he knocks her to the ground where there's a bunch of broken glass from cough syrup bottles and also all of the trashed drawers and stuff like that, screaming that she's a junkie. Now, Jesse and his date show up. Everybody is in various states of undress. And when Sonny goes, yeah, well, she's a junkie. And Jesse is like, no, she drinks cough syrup sometimes. I guzzle beers. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? This is an extreme overreaction. And Sonny loses it, screaming that he's better than them and stuff like that. And they're like, you have to leave. I have to admit, the level of patience these other adults showed all the way around is more than Sonny deserved.
This is a scene where I want to know what take that was, because I want to know if it was like the sixth take where after the first take, Nic Cage was like, yeah, that was good, but like, I just need some more of that Nic Cage flair.
Nick Flair.
Like, where does each take get more and more unhinged?
I don't know. I really don't want to think about the poor actresses. Basically, I feel bad for everybody but James Franco in that scene. If they didn't do it in one shot.
Oh, yeah, because she's like tits out the entire fucking scene.
She's butt naked.
Buckethead's naked.
And
getting
knocked
filming.
down and screamed at by a psycho.
Yeah.
Not ideal. Now, I thought about this scene for quite some time to try and figure out in what world does this fucking make any goddamn sense. And as far as the structure of the movie is concerned and the points I think they're trying to make, the only thing I can track back to is Henry's warning to Sonny that even square people living some normal life have problems too. And realizing that with a mild Robitussin addiction sent him off the lunatic cliff edge. That's it. That's all I can think of. And even that sounds super weak to me.
Right. The only thing that I thought this was going to come back into like one of the other main characters has some sort of addiction that he had to deal with like as a child. And
look, I got theories. I'm not going to be that fucking I don't have the charity in me this week to try and give a reading of this where it would make any sense whatsoever. I did not like this movie enough to even try, but
no. And I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the writing definitely leaves something to be desired here, because I would expect there to be immediately after the scene, throw to a flashback, throw to him talking to the girl while she is like, you know, like in the corner and like the fetal position being like, sorry, this is why this just happened. There's nothing. Or like, even if it's like still the get out and him and Scott Kahn have to have a conversation.
Or him doing the sad Charlie Brown walk away with the piano music. And it just shows flashbacks to his tragic childhood.
Yeah, give me something to show like why have this wild reaction.
I admire the restraint of the other characters. Like nobody's like being real judgmental for somebody that just admitted to being like a prostitute for years and years and years.
Yeah, it's like if you are 22 years old and you have been in this business for how long?
A decade, give or take.
He's an old hand at this point.
Oh, he's 26 is the age they actually shout out for him.
Okay.
They do shout out an age. Okay.
They do, yeah. He's getting out of the army at 26. I think Henry specifically says that in a slightly later scene when he's trying to set him up with a separate job from the bookstore job.
Okay, see, I kind of assumed that, again, because nothing in this movie is made abundantly clear.
I think there may have been like cuts to the screenplay or something because it's already overlong. I think there may have been like an additional 10 pages of screenplay that they just shorn off.
They're like, we're not shooting another half hour of this shit. There's no way.
Yeah, because like in my head, like he joined the army to try to get out of this life, and I figured he would have done that at 18. Most people have what, a 3-year contract when they go into the army, I think.
I think it's implied that he got into some legal trouble and the judge gave him the army or fucking jail option, basically.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I think it's like lightly implied when people ask him why he was in the military. He never says it outright, but that's kind of the vibe I was getting from it.
Gotcha. So after this, Sonny is immediately, again, because a little bit of Dynatap has absolutely given up on all of his dreams of becoming normal and dives right back into prostitution. I mean, he goes all out immediately. So, of course, also, by the way, just to give it credit where credit is due, I'm fairly certain this is the scene where Henry's like, hey, I can get you a job at the warehouse. And he's like, they'd never hire me. He's like, no, dude, I know somebody who works there. He's like, no, I'm going to go get a date. And
dude, it's a warehouse. I've worked in warehouses. Do you know who they hire at warehouses? Everybody.
Ex-cons. Because they're strong.
Also, real quick, just because I'm still looking at 5-star reviews for this movie, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read the first sentence. So Nic Cage directed a film that isn't as far out as you think it'd be.
Wrong. So wrong.
Okay, you know what? I have to read the rest now. Instead, it's insane in moments, quiet in others, and drags out influences from Zandali, which is a much better film than this.
Hell yeah. Okay, at least this guy's got taste.
No, that was my take.
Oh, okay.
He just says influences from Zandali
taste.
and probably got into Herzog's thought process during Bad Lieutenant's filming. Great. Bad Lieutenant was made after this. Bad Lieutenant was like 04. This was 02.
Yeah.
This, you know what? This person is not a Cage head,
Yeah.
clearly. So, null and void this 5-star.
All right. So of course, now that Sonny is recommitted, in the next scene he's banging Meg. Called her up immediately. This is his first dip back into that particular work pool.
Oh, I think we got it slightly out of order because he bangs Meg and then he has to call Henry to try and get a policeman's uniform for his second trick.
Yeah, he doesn't have that conversation with Henry on the phone.
No, he has it when he picks up the policeman's uniform.
That's right. You're right. You're absolutely correct. So,
and this starts the running, not gag, but like everybody is shorting him, and it's very funny.
Well, Meg's the only one he doesn't seem to take it like real personal with, because Meg's like, oh, I only have this much in cash. I can write you a check. And Sonny's like,
you can't write me a check.
Yeah, that doesn't work. And then she's like, oh yeah, that's right. I have a husband. I can't write you a check. But he takes what she has and is like, look, can you just tell your friends if they're looking for a date to call me? And she's like, hell yeah, absolutely.
Meg's a real one.
Meg is a real one.
Hell yeah, Bunny Bravo.
And so Sonny secures another job, but he needs some help to complete it. So on top of like just trying to get word of mouth going around again, he's also calling like madams and pimps, basically be like, hey, you got any pickup work? And some of them are like, yeah, absolutely. And he's on the phone with the one lady, and he's like, I didn't understand it at first. He's like, yeah, what if I did it just like plain clothes? All right. And then he calls home and talks to Mama, who puts on Henry because he needs something very specific.
There's a great line in this too. Fucking, she calls out to Henry in the other room, and he walks out and he's buttoning up his pants. And he's like, "Can't take a shit in peace in this house."
And so Henry's like, yeah, I think I got you. Just, swing by the house in an hour, so on and so forth. And Sonny does, and Henry hands him a large paper bag. And that's when Henry gives Sonny the pitch on working at a warehouse. And Sonny is full back to business mode. He's like, nah, this is all I'm gonna be able to do. And Henry's like, dude, you're getting older. This is not gonna be in play for you for much longer. And Sonny is like, nah, it's fine. And so it turns out the thing that Sonny needed to borrow for this job is a policeman's uniform for an old lady with a very particular kink, very specific fantasy that she is willing to pay for. So Sonny dresses up in the policeman's uniform and knocks on this lady's door and gives a bunch of weird clipped lines about how they're looking for a fugitive, and he has to check the house. And for whatever fucking reason, for this old lady's fantasy, she's like trying to poke holes in the performance. She's like, where's your partner? Don't you guys usually have partners? And Sonny's like, oh yeah, cops. Well, he's at another house asking them these questions. Sonny is clearly supposed to be struggling with some self-loathing here, but it just comes across as James Franco just grimacing while delivering these sexual innuendos, and it has a bizarre effect on the scenes.
He sounds tired the whole time. It's like, all right, can't we just, go to the bedroom?
Yeah, the old lady's really drawing out the concept of it being a cop, like inspecting her house for whatever fucking reason. And then when they get into the bedroom, again, Sonny is not having a good time. He just sort of like stares out the window angrily, like rubbing at his crotch before the old lady comes over and instigates something further. And then he handcuffs her to the bed, and we proceed on to the weirdo sex scene, which thankfully cuts before it gets too wildly graphic. But basically, this old lady wants him to use the billy club on her. This is a real police officer's uniform that Henry
asks for it. Like she's like, use the nightstick.
Yeah, and it fades right after that. Thankfully. Also, I'm not sure you're supposed to, as a professional sex worker, look absolutely disgusted at everything that you're being asked to do. I don't know if that's...
I mean, unless you specifically request that.
That true. Again, I don't know. It seems like it would probably not be a pro move, but who fucking knows? regardless, after everything is done, the lady like gives him money out of her purse, and he's like, you're short $100. And she's like, I'm not fucking giving you any more money, get out. And Sonny does not like this and has another fucking freak out. He's like,
this one at least I feel is justified.
This does make sense.
There's an agreed upon price, which she is renegotiating after services are rendered.
Yeah, and he wings a fucking bottle of wild turkey against the wall and starts ripping up the place.
Smashes a TV, rips down blinds. It did give me a brief amount of pause where I was like, oh, I guess that's right. Like a male prostitute wouldn't need a pimp to intimidate Johns into paying up. They can do that themselves. Kind of Janes, sure.
Janes.
They can pull double duty, right? You know what I mean? Because he definitely does that. Starts wrecking the place up, something fierce. Until the old lady is finally like, I'll give you the extra money, and then throws it on the ground. Is like, pick it up, whore.
So I forgot this was set in the 80s, and when he grabs that CRT, I'm like, there's no way that's worth $300. Not a fucking chance.
Yeah. So Sonny leaves and gets in the car and has another absolute freak out where he's just yanking on the police uniform and punching the seats in the vehicle, and then the scene just sort of unceremoniously ends like that. Strange to me. So when he gets back home, he asks Mama if he can go pick up Carol from her job in the other city, where I guess she hasn't come back from at this point, after the scene where we learn in the morning that Mama had taken Carol out to this hotel where she was doing a week run, whatever. So Mama agrees and also floats the idea that him and Carol should work doubles, which is something that she's kind of been pushing since the beginning of the film. And Sonny drives off to pick her up. He goes into the hotel.
For doubles, I need to know the specifics of this because it makes it pretty clear that Sonny doesn't do dudes.
Yeah, I think
is this like a swingers thing?
Well, they have a scene where they actually do one of those jobs, which kind of plays like that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought
it
was just a double booking, but I was under the impression when she says doubles, it's two for the price of one.
Yeah, no, I think it's just like a couples dates thing, or at least that's how it plays in this film. But Sonny goes to pick up Carol from the hotel she's been working in. We actually get some background context for Sonny's story, because behind a painting in this hotel lobby, there is a gunshot in the wall, still the damage still visible. And Sonny tells Carol about a story about when a pimp came to get Jewel, Mama, back and bring her back into his employ. His dad ran out. What was that?
His stable.
There you go. His dad ran out with a sawed-off shotgun and shot at the pimp, who ran away and never came back. And then I guess the owner of the hotel just put a painting over the hole in the fucking wall.
I do love the dude at the counter during this scene. He's like praying to Papa Legba, like one of the Loa, the like voodoo, not gods, like voodoo saints.
Yeah.
At the beginning of it, which is kind of cool. It's in New Orleans. You got to do voodoo shit. It's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, at least it lends to the specific location that they're doing this in. At least they paid some attention somewhere in the making of this film. I think that's a good place to call it for now, and we will finish up the rest of this bizarre plot and film in the next episode. I'm tired. Let's catch our breath and dive back into the marvelous sexual misadventures of Sonny.
I mean, while we're ending the episode, we can also dive into the marvelous sexual disadventures of Elon Musk by plugging our Twitter.
Yeah, there you go. You can follow us on Twitter at cagefight_pod. That's right.
I was about to add Josh forgets what it is.
Usually. But no, I remembered.
At patreon.com/NicCageFight. Get all these episodes without ads for $3 a month, or give us more and get more content. To continue our running joke, we will be watching The Wrestler
at some point.
Yeah, coming soon.
Coming soon. We're watching The Wrestler, an actual film.
Yeah, I mean, we could do with an actual film at some point, because this one was rough, man. I feel like we're getting battered about a little bit recently.
Yeah, it's
Can you tell we're
We're
demoralized, listeners? Can you
It's-
tell this one was a struggle?
Last month or
we're
so, we've had
really-
some rough episodes.
Yeah, it's been tough. I need a fucking spot of daylight, man. This is
I mean, Fast Times was pretty good.
Fast Times was fine. Fast Times was fine.
Yeah,
film.
but you know what? I'm not going to spoil it yet, but I already rolled the next film, and we're not getting any respite anytime soon.
Oh no.
All right. Well, we'll save that reveal for next episode.
Oh yeah, it's a cliffhanger.
Yeah, you heard our plugs. Come back to find out how this stupid fucking movie ends. Trust me, you're not gonna
It's
want to miss that
stupid.
shit.
It's
It
stupid.
get- It inexplicably gets worse from here. I promise you that much.
Oh, we had
and-
hit the high points.
No,
Oh no, we haven't. There's one more high point.
there's a lot more low points though.
Yeah, there is a lot more low points.
Oh,
but we
yeah,
have not
you're right.
reached the valley yet, but we also have not reached the mountain.
It's all valley. We got one peak, and the rest is just valley. Yeah, so come back around for that one. And as always, listeners, we appreciate you.